With so many respirators to choose from, how do you know which one is right for you and the job you're performing? Better yet, how do you know when a respirator should be used at all? When the air you are breathing does not contain enough oxygen, or when it contains too much of any harmful substance, you are putting your respiratory system and yourself at risk. Fortunately, most lung and bodily damage can be prevented by using the right kind of air-purifying respirator. A respirator can filter out or absorb the contamination from the air, making it safe to breathe. It'll also provide protection against inadvertent ingestion. And depending on the type of mask used, it may protect the eyes from both physical and chemical hazards. Will you always be aware of a hazardous situation? Well, most likely you won't, because some of the most dangerous respiratory hazards can't be detected by the five senses. Very often, some of the worst hazards, the ones that can cause very serious illness, produce no immediate symptoms at all. How you feel, what you see, or what you smell is not always a good indication of whether or not a respirator is required. Therefore, you need to be aware of the conditions of your working environment and choose a respirator according to the respiratory hazards that may exist. Before choosing a respirator or any breathing apparatus, you should be aware of the more common types of respiratory hazards that might be encountered, and which may require the use of a respirator. When working outdoors, oxygen deficiency is not a common problem. Typically, it occurs in confined areas, such as buildings and storage spaces, where air has been displaced by gases, or oxygen has been consumed by rust, fire, or aerobic bacteria. If the oxygen level is too low to support life, the person will pass out in seconds and die within minutes. However, through proper and frequent air monitoring conducted by your employer, you will know whether the air is safe to breathe without the use of a self-contained breathing apparatus. Particulate contaminants can occur in the form of dust, fumes, or mist. Now, dusts are created during cutting or grinding operations, or when certain materials, such as grain or certain fabrics, are handled, and the dust can hang in the air for a long time. Fumes are formed when metals are heated. As the material begins to cool, extremely small particles become suspended in the air. And mists are tiny droplets of liquids that often occur around spraying operations. When any of these particulates are breathed into your lungs, they create a barrier that keeps oxygen from reaching your bloodstream. The blockage and the damage add up until your ability to breathe is permanently impaired or worse. Many respiratory hazards stem from working around poisonous gases and vapor contaminants. The air we breathe is made up of gases and vapors, so hazardous substances in this form just pass into your lungs as easily as oxygen does. And like air, they are usually invisible. Gases could escape from cylinders or be formed as byproducts of certain processes. Vapors are formed when a liquid evaporates. Many liquids release vapors at room temperature. But organic compounds, like the chemicals used in cleaning fluids and the solvents used in paints, can produce a considerable amount. Some gases and vapors are powerful irritants. They can form acids when they contact the moisture in your throat and lungs, injuring them immediately. If the gases or vapors reach your brain, they will cause dizziness, fainting, or blurred vision. They can slow your reflexes down or affect your sense of judgment. Gases and vapor contaminants can be lethal. The only way to protect yourself is by using the appropriate air respirator. Now, exactly when do you need a respirator? When does a contaminant in the air actually pose a threat to your health? Well, that depends upon what the substance is, what its concentration is, and how long you are exposed to it. These factors will also determine the type of respirator that you'll need. There are two types of respiratory protection: air purifying, or an APR, and supplied air, or SA respirators. APRs only remove specific contaminants from the atmosphere already present. SA respirators draw air from either an atmosphere outside the contamination or from a tank of compressed air. Basically, air purifying respirators rely on mechanical filters or absorbent materials to remove atmospheric contaminants such as particulates and vapor gases. Before any air purifying respirator is used, the identity of the contaminant and its concentration level should be known so that the proper filter cartridge can be used. It is very important to understand why different kinds of respirators are used in different situations. The amount of protection that you will need is based on the concentration of the hazard. For low concentration, a disposable dust respirator may be adequate. It provides some protection against toxic dust and mist and even welding fumes. It consists simply of a cloth or a paper filter placed over the nose and mouth, held in place by an elastic strap fitted over the head. However, it is difficult to get a good fit or a seal with this device. The half-mask air purifying respirator is the type most frequently used. It works by passing the air around you through some kind of purifying element. Filters for particulates or chemical cartridges for gases or vapors are used. It fits from above the nose to below the chin and utilizes either one or two cartridges for contaminant removal. This unit is used for protection against pesticides, dust, acid gases, organic vapors, and other materials for which there are appropriate cartridges. Remember, a filter or cartridge designed to protect you from any one type of hazard may not protect you at all from other ones. And the cartridges that are used on half-mask respirators and full-mask respirators are color-coded for specific hazards. A full-face respirator tends to seal better on your face and gives additional protection compared to the other types of respirators. There is an effective barrier over the mouth, the nose, and the eyes, and can be used when extra protection is needed. Supplied air respirators must be utilized when chemical concentration levels are too high for an air purifying respirator or when the level of chemical contamination is undetermined. Instead of purifying the atmosphere, they supply clean air to the mask. A self-contained breathing apparatus, or SCBA, is a good example of an SA respirator. It provides the air from a tank that is part of the unit. What else determines respiration selection? In any atmosphere that could immediately kill you or damage your health, you must wear a breathing apparatus. Atmospheres which are flammable or explosive, oxygen deficient, or contain high concentrations of a toxic substance are situations which are immediately dangerous to life or health. The most common situation is oxygen deficiency, as mentioned earlier. Confined spaces where ventilation is poor are often oxygen deficient. Many people have been killed either because they thought that an air purifying respirator would protect them or because they did not test the space for oxygen content before entering. An SCBA is often used to rescue someone or to perform emergency repairs in a hazardous area. But do not attempt to use one unless you have been properly trained on the particular SCBA. Regardless of whether you are using an air respirator or self-contained breathing apparatus, the responsibility ultimately lies with you. Respirators should be provided by the employer when such equipment is necessary to protect the health of the employee, and the respirators should be applicable and suitable for the purpose intended. But it is up to you to actually use the provided respiratory protection in accordance with instructions and training received. These devices are provided for your protection and safety. Wear them whenever they are required and only in the situations they are designed to handle. The consequences of not using a respirator or SCBA when the situation calls for one could be life-threatening.
We've shown a variety of workplaces and situations this month. We'd like to remind you that each workplace is different. Be sure to wear the personal protective equipment that's right for your job. For more information about Safety Watch, give us a call at 800-440-0377. From all of us here at Safety Watch, work smart, stay safe, and thank you for watching.